The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar. Just a few housekeeping rules to go over with everyone before we get started. Just wanted to let you know during the presentation, all the participants will be on mute. If you have any questions or any items that you'd like specifically addressed during the presentation, please use the raise your hand feature, or you can type into your panel, and we will try to address any questions or concerns you may have. And just to let you know that we are planning on running for exactly 1 hour, and to be respectful of everyone's time, we will be cutting off exactly at the 1 hour mark. So, and with that, I would like to introduce to you Ms. Pam Wallace.
Thank you, Renee, and thank you everyone who's on this call for joining us for a webinar on marketing your building technology programs. I'm the director of the BEST Center, Building Efficiency for a Sustainable Tomorrow, and this is our second webinar that we've done with HVAC Excellence, and so we appreciate their support and our ability to use their conferencing platform to conduct this webinar with you today. I'm going to make brief introductions and then we'll get right into the program, because I'm also excited to say that we may be able to share with you our new and improved 2-minute career video. And many of you are aware of this video by attending some of the previous workshops that we've given. And it's very fast-paced and very much oriented towards the younger millennial market that we're all trying to attract into this field. So if we have enough time, we'll share that video with you on this call, and if not, you'll be able to see the 2-minute video on our website at bestctr.org. So with that said, just briefly to let you know, for those who are not familiar with the BEST Center, we are here to help support community colleges throughout the nation develop building technician educational programs. And we also have a goal to engage industry stakeholders to support high-performance building technician education. And our third goal is to strengthen the national STEM pipeline for educating building technicians and engineers. So with that said, we wanted to bring this marketing webinar to you because of the feedback we've heard from so many people about this being a great need to help us gain more ideas on how we can market our programs. We thought we'd bring folks together who have had some positive experiences and some good ideas to share with us on just how to reach your audience. And so we're going to have Chris Miller, who's an instructor at Heartland Community College, talk about some of his marketing and outreach ideas. And then we'll have Renee Tomlinson, who is the Director of Strategic Partnerships with the ESCO Group, otherwise known as HVAC Excellence, talk about recruitment of women. And we've all been struggling with how we get more females into this workforce. So she'll share some good ideas with us on that. And then Robert McNabb, who's the director and instructor at Laramie County Community College, talk about new program marketing and leveraging the state workforce development funds. So with that said, those are our panel members today. We'll go ahead and let Chris get started and talk about some of his successful marketing initiatives.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. So I have 19 minutes to deliver quite a bit of really technical materials that I have embedded in the PowerPoint/Death by PowerPoint presentation that you're about to see. So why don't we flip to the next slide for me, please. And I'll give you a quick overview. Our community college is located in central Illinois. So we're in the middle of absolutely nowhere. We are not in the Chicago market. We're not in the St. Louis market. So our market is surprisingly very white collar. We have country companies, State Farm headquarters, a lot of universities and schools. So we have a very unique and dynamic market to look at. So if we hit the next slide, I'll kind of give you an overview of initially what we were planning on doing. I approached my marketing department here on campus and I said we need to reach out and get students into our building controls renewable energy field. And the first thing they came back to me with is they said, when we do marketing, we are looking for two specific areas. The first area, surprisingly enough, is to identify parents, grandparents, and decision-making folks to make them aware that our degree and program exists. And then the second issue is to identify students and younger aged students, typically at the freshman, sophomore level of high school, though the data indicates a little bit younger of an age bracket, someone that is in junior high, to get them interested in our technology fields and then understand that we have these technical programs at our community college. So the first focus was on traditional media. You can read the PowerPoint that we have up there. And so we advertised on the local radio and local newspaper. They were expensive, but they were known entities to us in the marketing department. All right, so let's go to the next slide, please. And now what we're going to do, and there it goes, bum, bum, bum. So I asked, and the reason I know a little bit about marketing was we were issued a TAA-CCCT, or we call it a TAC grant. And we were around one TAC grant. And because of that, there was additional funding when we started doing the developmental work of some of the programs that this grant had, and hidden, and it's not hidden, but there was funding to do direct marketing and outreach. Later grants did not have that, and so a lot of people never realized that there was funds available, and I was able to utilize that and really build more into our programs and advertise more heavily than a lot of other schools that had that same grant. And I don't pertain to know all of this material, but here is what we have found. The marketing to the newspapers does not work. It is just very, no one reads the newspapers as much anymore, and there is not enough leverage to identify a product, Heartland Community College, with that single bit of data that was in there. So our next focus to highlight our program was to create a 30-second trailer that would run before the movies. And so Warenberg and some of the other movie theaters will allow you to purchase marketing in front of the trailers, and they randomly select when those trailers run. But demographically, the vast majority of people will only watch those trailers 2 to 2.5 minutes prior to the actual start time of that movie. And so we focused on telling that movie theater house to play our video, our 30-second clip that focused specifically on Heartland and the renewable technology, building technology infrastructure and what we have to offer. And we kind of played our cards and said, you run it the first 2.5 minutes before the start of the movie. And they kind of groused, but we said that's what we want to do. And so the focus then was specifically on the technical program and specific on the building controls, and not so much on when I say focus on Heartland, I should have emphasized the brand of Heartland and that there was building controls that were there. Second item that was identified by my marketing department was the use of, every third week we have a local radio station that gives our colleges and universities in our town access to about a 10-minute segment of what's happening with our programs in our schools. And so I was able to, at least for one Friday in the middle of May, just go in and talk to the DJs and talk about and market that program. So that was a free segment that the local radio station plugged for us. So that was nice, and that was something that the local meeting or local radio station provided as for business and local institutions. So let's hit the next slide. All right, the third ingredient, which would be considered the second ingredient, is hitting the parents. What I mean by the third is, first, getting identification of the product, knowing that parents and decision makers make it, and then when you look at the parent side, a lot of times parents in my community want their students to get a 4-year degree. We're a very white-collar community, and so technical degrees is very difficult for a professional, career-oriented parent to recognize that that is a viable means for their child to take. And so every spring and in the fall, we offer on our campus an information night. And so I used some funding to create that postcard that you see in front of you. And we highlighted our building controls and renewable program, and we ran during that information night a very specific open lab, come in and see what we have, what are the opportunities. And so we took an existing marketed event that we held on our campus every year, and I was able to utilize some of my funds that freed up our college's funds and used our funds to market directly to every person in our district, and everyone got this flyer. So again, for folks that did not make it, at least they got a flyer that was physically in their hand, that was specifically identified and addressed to them. And externally, some research that I had just looked into, I found this article, a white paper from Noel there in 2011, and really the most effective reporting that they indicated that had the longest retention of student and parent was the information night and some sort of co-ran program. All right, so let's hit the next slide. And to build on the student side, like many of you have already done, and this is a no-brainer, but one thing that was new to me is we really wanted to bring in the local high schools and the local students into our program and show them what we have. Obviously, at various schools and applications that we do, we know how to do that. We can do that. But what's interesting is, from a funding source, what really helped was that I was able to provide the local high schools $300, which was the cost of hiring out, I believe, their bus service. So the local buses here in town are not owned anymore by the bus, are not owned by the school, but rather by a privately run busing service. So the $300 was enough to cover busing all of the freshmen and sophomore students that were in the technology department at Normal Community, one of our local high schools. We brought them in under the TAC grant because we directly highlighted and showed what the new programs were and how they identified students and to transfer from their high school into our school using dual credit applications and other sorts of mechanisms to help accelerate their placement and transfer through the school. So one thing I would say is, if you want to build a stronger partnership with the local high schools, the money is in having the ability to pay for the bus, and possibly, and this is some legal issue, is paying for a substitute so their instructors can come in. But that gets into a bigger issue I don't want to cover, but that was a question asked of us, was can we bus them in? Yes. Can we pay for a sub? I couldn't do it, but that may help for some of you that might have that option. All right, let's go to the next one, please. All right. And so we've got a couple going on here, and what we're going to do is, after we identified the students and brought them in, one thing as a school and our division that we did is we internally said, you know, we really need to reach the guidance counselors. And so we were able to, just as a small department, get a group of us and ran an evening course. We brought in some cold beer because it was just open to guidance counselors. We invited 40 of the local high school guidance counselors from the high school districts that support our district in our school. 20 of them had signed up, and we had an open evening, about 3 hours. We had parting gifts. We had a little open bar, and then we had about a 10-minute activity in each one of our program areas, where we highlighted what you would do if a student came to our program and took building controls, renewable energy, electronics. This is what you would learn. This is the job outlooks. This is where local employers and companies are that would be looking for these students. And so the hope was that we could get those tutors and specifically those advisors to understand, here is another market area that we can take good students, quality here's somebody that really can do well but maybe more hands-on. These are the areas. And that worked well, and it was a very low-cost process. So I'm sure you've had those ideas as well. Let's go to the next one. All right. So where I got, and this is where the next couple of slides have some really, the expense lists, the cost per click rates. There's a whole new media out there that is difficult to really pin a tail to the tail. When I approached my marketing department about doing this, they were very leery about wanting to advertise in YouTube. They were very leery about doing Pandora. And part of it is, I'm not knocking them, was they're very comfortable with their line of terrestrial, meaning newspaper and local radio media, and this new media system, and being able to target and systematically size what your population and demographics are were hard for them to really quantify and get their heads around. What we learned was, personally, more high school and college-age kids listen to Spotify than Pandora. Most of the feedback that I got from this online YouTube media, electronic media, came from Pandora. Pandora had a really robust marketing platform with software data-driven numbers to indicate what kind of click feedback we had. As a very rough rule of thumb, when you buy a block of contact, it will get you roughly 1% of a click-through, meaning 1% of all those folks will only click on your link to see what you have. So when you deal with hundreds of thousands of shots out there and you get 1% back, that's tremendously valuable, but it appears to be a lot less than it really is. Let's hit the next slide. So when we did Pandora, for example, we did a time frame of just January to February. When I say of this year, this was actually of very early 2015. And we bought about $5,000 worth of impressions. So we purchased 333,000, they gave us 350,000, and then we had a click-through rate of 0.63. So you can get an idea of roughly the percentage of number of students or prospective contacts that clicked back to our Heartland website to say they saw that web and they wanted more information on that. One thing that we asked was, would an ad block be counted? So if there was 350,000 impressions and someone had an ad block, would they still see it? And the answer was that would not be counted. Let's hit the next page. So we had, in addition to all of this online, we purchased a TV segment, and we did a half-hour segment with 10 blocks of our program, 10 blocks of the local community college, the next door community college on their program, and then on iGen, which was the big blanket organization here in the state of Illinois that brought all this programming together. And the only reason I'm throwing it in here was we wanted to advertise online, and by doing this online half-hour segment through the TV company, they also put the video segment on their website, and we linked those websites back to our website, so there was a greater awareness of transferability of data from this half-hour video segment to online presence, which then linked to our other online presence, which we're going to see on the next slide. So on the next slide here, we reached out and we specifically targeted mobile data applications. And we went with a company that was the local newspaper. We paid for them to do all of the market research. And so the market research here is specifically through application games and embedded in existing websites. What you want not to do is do specific AdWords. So Google has an AdWord. We don't want to do that. And the reason for it is it's very difficult to highlight building controls and our controls with targeted words that many people interpret in different ways. So you can directly do this ad marketing yourself through iAd and AdMob, but if we click on the next target on the next website, what we did is we used a marketing aspect that used their pantographs data and derived a very specific application for it. So let's go to the next page. I have about 1 minute left here of our time, and I wanted to give you a highlight. So when we approach them, and you have more than enough Death by PowerPoint, you can read these. But in essence, we wanted to have AdWords, bumpers, and inputs. So if you flip to the next page for me, utilizing those terms, we did in mobile apps, we had specific content of 600,000 hits. Embedded in scrolled ads, game of words, and some other games. And so of the 600,000 mobile apps that we hit, we purchased a total of 720. So basically what it meant was 600 of that 720 was for mobile ads, and then advanced audiences were job seekers and other folks that was embedded in advertisement in the local media system. So those were how we divvied up the online percentage, and that's how we were able to advertise that. If you flip to the next page, I'm just about done with my time, but please, this is where you can justify the biggest bang for your buck as the cost analysis for where things go. On the very top, you can see that a 2-week advertisement in the paper is $800, which didn't get us a very good rate of return. We don't know what the rate of return is. Whereas when we did YouTube, we did a 15-second ad for $3,500, and we were guaranteed 60,000 impressions, and we were told how many click-through rates there were. So this right here was the meat and potatoes of where to put your money into advertising. Go to the next page for me. And I'm going to wrap up by saying, once we identified all this external marketing, we spent a lot of time, and we bought the ACT data of students that directly identified Heartland Community College, and we wrote a dedicated letter to those students and said, think about Heartland, here's our programs that we have to offer, and we identified a lot of different demographics of people. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Renee, and she can talk more about how she and her organization is dealing with getting her students into that. So you can see the last three. I didn't want to waste a lot of time on that, but please go through and read those last three to get you an idea, but Renee will definitely tell you more on how to get her students and more female students into our program. All right, Renee, you ready to go?
I am ready. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Renee Tomlinson, and I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships at ESCO Group. As Pam Wallace mentioned, we're also known as HVAC Excellence. What I wanted to go over with you today, obviously in a short period of time,
come on in.
We can't come up with all of the answers for how to recruit women into your program, because a lot of it is on a trial and error basis and different marketing approaches and things. But what we will do is talk about what's the current situation in the building technician or HVACR programs. Some things about attracting women or the non-traditional student to your program. And then what we're also going to go over are some of the networking organizations that are available for you. Some of them will be specific to that woman or female demographic, and other are just some great organizations for you to be working with as industry educators. So why do we want to look at recruiting women, or what is commonly referred to as the non-traditional student, into our building technician programs? Well, in 2012, the U.S. Department of Labor projected that 2/3 of the people in the industry in 2020, which is only 4 years from now, will be people who were not in the industry in 2010. So that's approximately 65% of the workforce that's going to need to be replaced due to both industry growth and retirement of the current workforce. The 2012 statistics gathered by the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, Department of Labor, also projected that the employment of HVACR mechanics and installers was projected to grow 21% in a 10-year period. That's faster than the average for all occupations. More recent studies conducted by the HVACR Workforce Development Foundation in 2015 found that an additional 100,000 people will be needed to fill HVACR-related positions in the next 7 years due to the growth in the industry and retirement. And that's actually a much higher number than was projected by the Bureau of Labor and Statistics back in 2012. So obviously, and this is probably information that's not new to anyone, is that there is an even higher demand for people coming into our industry than we even thought originally. What I have up on screen right now, this infographic was developed by Explore the Trades. It's a program of the NextStar Legacy Foundation. And what I wanted to highlight here is what they have up in this upper corner, that only 6% of students consider a career in the trades. So we, as industry organizations and academic programs, need to do a much better job of getting the word out about careers available in the HVACR field to everyone. And of course, the looming question, so where are we going to get all of these people? If you didn't know, 47% of the total U.S. workforce are women. 57% of all U.S. working age women are in the workforce. So 57% of all people that are able to work are working. Only 1.3% of those are in the construction trades. Less than 1% work in HVACR fields. So out of 362,000 total technicians in the industry, less than 2,300 are female. Those are some alarming numbers. If we're to progress and succeed as an industry, we have to reach beyond that traditional male student and open our programs to the non-traditional students in this career, and that's going to include women. Women exceed men in community college enrollment. A majority of women are enrolled in traditional fields. And of course, we know high school and college counselors typically aren't guiding young women toward technology. We're having a hard enough time getting them to guide any students toward some of our trade programs a lot of times, but they're really not focusing on getting women in there. So this is a quote from Frederick Abrams. In higher education, young women pursue a much narrower range of subject areas, and as a consequence, in their later occupational lives, find fewer options open to them. So unless there's special encouragement in school from teachers or at home from the parents, then female students tend to cope with these contradictory demands by choosing a more female gender subject, or they direct their need for achievement into the more socially acceptable subject areas. And what can we do about it? So one of the biggest things is, number one, ask. Make sure, career fairs, bringing students in to see your program, evaluate your program. Ask the female student, ask the non-traditional student, is this something that would interest you? The other big things that you want to do is ensure that any marketing materials you're producing, and Chris Miller gave you some awesome examples of some of the new age way of marketing, right, through all these electronic medias and games and other platforms that are available to us now. Make sure you're including women and students of diverse backgrounds, because if they can't picture themselves in the career or seeing themselves in your program, they're not even going to think about it. One thing I wanted to show you was this great example from El Camino College. They had done this this great women success story highlight. This is a great thing to be able to provide to any females that would be interested in enrolling in your program. What they did here was highlight it's not only a young female student, but she's also of African American descent. And they talked about her background, some of the different things that she's done, and why she chose to come over to a career in HVAC. And it not only talks about the good things about it, they do actually go over some of the barriers. You can't see all the information here, but one of the big things, Valerie had noted that customers often expect men to do HVACR work. So that is one of the big barriers that we do have in this industry, and it's something that we do need to address in talking to our female students, and also to our other students in our program. So this is the ideal circle in recruiting not only just non-traditional students, but all students. The recruitment, retention, completion, placement, ultimately, that's a success. So, but it's very important during the recruitment phase that we be honest with both men and women about the good and bad of working in the industry. It's a great job, and it can have great pay, but it's not always easy. It can be tough. The things that are appealing, the good wages, the benefits, the upward mobility, financial independence, possible business ownership, networking, and it's something it's mentally challenging. You have to be able to troubleshoot and problem solve. Some of the things that are less desirable about this as a career, the long hours during busy seasons. It can be physically demanding. It is a male-dominated industry, and for a female, it is a hard climb upwards. There are some uncomfortable conditions, some occupational hazards, but those are for everyone, but just as long as they're aware. The other things, as instructors and educators, you want to prepare to help all of your students succeed, and you want to make sure that they're up to par with their fitness, so they'll be able to handle the physical demands of the job. And sometimes they might need some tutoring in some academic areas, some of their math skills, troubleshooting skills, things like that. Why are we placing such an emphasis on women and recruiting women? So for women, the difficulty of penetrating historically male-dominated occupations, coupled with the unwillingness to accommodate them in those occupations, makes the environment unattractive for enticing substantial numbers of women into the field and retaining them there. So a very large percentage of women who enter technology fields leave those fields in a short amount of time. One of the top reasons cited is how they were treated by their peers and mentors on the job. As women in HVAC becomes more and more common, I'm sure that the peers who attend classes and pass them in the hallways with the program, they'll have a different mindset. As we start coming together and it becomes a more gender neutral industry, that those things will pass. But right now, the generational gaps that are currently involved within the industry, there's sometimes preconceived mindsets about the place of women in the workplace. But we're hoping that the generational shifts are going to start pushing some of that aside. But that has been one of the biggest barriers for women in the field so far. So of course, it's one thing to get her in the door, but that's only half the battle. So you have to be prepared to make some changes in your program to make sure that all of your students are comfortable. If you ever get the chance, I highly recommend that you search for a video by a young lady called Debbie Sterling at TEDx PSU. It's a great video about a young lady who joined an engineering program and talked about what a difficult time she had and what the perceptions of instructors and other people were as she was climbing upwards, and why she's fighting so hard to get young women interested in going into engineering careers. So some of the things that you can do as an instructor and educator when you have these mixed demographics in your classrooms. Assume nothing about your students with regard to gender. Treat them equally, and we say equally in quotes, but make an effort to respect their differences. So we say equally in quotes because equal treatment may mean that some students are not experiencing the best learning environment. So you can't always be equal to everyone and provide them with the best learning experience. So students are diverse. They have a very different learning issues. So treating all students the same means that some students will have a better learning experience than their peers. So, and I'm cutting close on time here, but I did want to go over with everybody. The greatest support is other men and women in the industry. So we would highly recommend, not only for yourselves, but for your students, to get involved, find local chapters, unions or organizations, join or follow industry groups on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, join supporting organizations who offer networking, mentor programs, online continuing education, classes and professional development, and obviously social media. Here's a list of some great resource and networking organizations, especially for recruitment efforts, and some that concentrate specifically on networking and materials, marketing materials and things for recruiting students, but more specifically recruiting women. So Women in HVACR is a great program. They also offer scholarships to women, as does Explore the Trades. The National Institute for Women in the Trades, IWITS, HVAC Excellence. We develop a number of recruitment tools and are always building that library of materials. And then, of course, there's Refrigeration Service Engineer Society, or RSES, which is a great technician-based organization where your students coming into this field can network with other like individuals. Lastly, what I wanted to leave you with are just some places where there has been successful integration of women into the workforce. Some of those things: teaching, the defense industry, the medical profession, military, manufacturing, sports journalism, Wall Street, science areas. And if we can do it there, we know that it's just a matter of time before we get that all integrated here. And with that, I would like to turn the presentation over to Mr. Robert McNabb.
Thank you very much, Renee. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Robert McNabb. I'm the director and instructor of the HVACR program at Laramie County Community College here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And the marketing strategy that has been very recently successful for our institution has been partnerships with the state workforce training partnerships, primarily the Department of Workforce Services based here in the capital city, and also partnerships with employers in both the local area and also in the region, to include the city of Denver. The first one I'll discuss is going to be our partnership with the State of Wyoming Department of Workforce Services. If we could go to the next slide. Wyoming Department of Workforce Services uses a Workforce Development Training Fund pre-hire training grant That is funds provided by revenue in the state, and the training grants are available to develop an industry-specific workforce for businesses or industry when there is a shortage of skilled workers. Recently, industry has really taken off in the state of Wyoming, but especially in the southeastern portion of the state. We've had numerous plants and manufacturing firms move into the area, as well as 2 data centers, and all those areas required a workforce that was skilled and put a heavy demand on local businesses for personnel. So to help meet this need, we needed to step up our recruitment in short order, and we applied for and received this pre-hire training grant. Previous grant award that we got for the year 2015 was $42,000, and that covered all costs related to training. It paid for the students' tuition, it paid for their books, it paid for any lab fees. They were on a free ride, and it was highly successful. Student enrollment in the program increased by 300% in the first semester, and it really kicked off, and the retention was incredible. I believe out of a class of 12 at the most, I would maybe lose 2, and the rest were ready to work at the end of the program, and had a very high hiring rate of that as well. The upside to that is, since we had a fledgling HVAC program, it was brand new. We had no real reputation, and the first cohort that went through, they talked to their friends, and then their employers saw their performance and started talking amongst themselves. And not only did the enrollment increase for the next grant for the next semester, but also there was a sharp increase in enrollments not associated with the grant, and there was there wasn't very much change in our recruiting practices. This was all word of mouth, and it put our classes into a waiting list for that second semester. Can we have the next slide? To get these applications to the awards through the state was not a very complicated procedure, and I hope that other states have a similar procedure. But how we do it is we apply for the grant with at least one letter of support from industry that we are looking to serve, and it goes through the wickets of their selection process. And if the grant is awarded, we work with Wyoming Department of Workforce Services business representatives to help us advertise for the program. Many times this came in the form of email blasts to their clients, indicating that training is available along with contact information. Once that email blast went out, we had somebody wait by a phone, and the phones lit up, and you'd get sometimes 10 calls a day of an interested party that would be looking to enroll. And then we'd run that until the class was full, and then we'd cut off. It's been highly successful. The most current grant has been extended for the second semester, and is actually covering advanced courses. The other type of recruiting tool that we had is, and this has grown even with the help of DWS, is partnerships with regional employers. Regional employers, I mean, in the states of Wyoming, Colorado, and Nebraska. What's interesting about these partnerships is that we did not initiate contact with these firms in these areas. Because of the increased enrollment and the word of mouth that got out about the product that we were providing employers, businesses in Denver and northern Colorado, as well as western Nebraska, contacted us wanting to recruit students as soon as they graduated. And some firms are actually looking to actually send us students that they have already hired and paying their tuition, because it's more cost effective to pay for tuition at our institution than what they have local. These partnerships have provided access to numerous resources. We get equipment donations. Most of our equipment that we have in the lab is donated. Most of it is brand new. We've gotten donations from Train and Lennox for residential units. We've gotten tool donations that are state-of-the-art, the latest tools. We've received refrigeration equipment from Source Refrigeration, which are responsible for the Walmarts between Denver and the Canadian border. And we've also received donations in expertise and access to systems through Reliable Technologies for our building automation program. Another resource we get is employment opportunities. A big thing we do is we have a interview day, and it's usually in the final week of classes. Numerous companies come in and they're assigned rooms that are interview rooms, and the students are subjected to real-life job interviews. And many students have been hired in this way. So people who have come and interviewed students is Source Refrigeration, Advanced Comfort Solutions, which are local, Long Building Technologies, Train Industrial based out of Colorado, and EchoStar. And a lot of these result in hirings, but if they don't result in a job, they do give students some excellent experience with interviews. Most of these folks who have participated in this interview process have also volunteered to set up mock interviews and participate in mock interviews and critique students on their interview performance. So it's a good training tool that we're looking to use in the coming fall. We also get special training on new equipment. The most recent one, we had Lennox utilize one of our classrooms, and our students were invited and they participated in training on new test equipment for wireless manometers, and also were introduced to Lennox's new all-aluminum outdoor coil for their heat pumps. It was a pretty interesting unit, and students really enjoyed that. Other training resources that they're providing us, they provide us with adjunct instructors that they give release time from their company, and then we bring them on our payroll and allow them to train our students on bending sheet metal. So we have a sheet metal expert that comes and teaches sheet metal. We have another expert that teaches combustion analysis that's from Black Hills Energy. We have also guest speakers that come in from numerous companies to give students insight on how things are happening out in the industry, and it's been very useful. Next slide. Oh yes, that's pretty much. I went under my time, but that's good. If anybody has any questions, I think we're ready for them.
Okay, well, let me just interject and say thank you, Robert. That was excellent, and I appreciate all of the presenters' presentations, because it's interesting when we heard Chris talk about death by PowerPoint so often. I'm thinking, no, he's really providing a lifeline. I think you're providing a lifeline to people who are really looking to get help on how they're going to market their programs, and Renee also providing great ideas on not only recruiting women, but keeping women in the program. I think there's someone who needs to go on mute, and then Robert gave us some excellent ideas on not only developing strategies for strengthening the partnerships with the state workforce training agencies, but also getting students employment after they get them into their program through these workforce development training programs and partnerships rather, then they're also not only getting them trained and into their program, but also able to get them jobs thereafter. So I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the fact that we're able to leverage the Best Center network and get expertise from faculty members out here that are involved in providing these great examples to other folks in the network, and we're really happy to have this webinar. So Renee, I think if you want to handle a few questions, and then maybe we'll see if we can show the video, the 2-minute career video.
Do you want to jump to doing that first and then see, or do you want to address any questions? I don't see anybody with any questions so far. So maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put up, the Best Center has just hot off the presses released this great career recruitment type video that they wanted to share with everybody. And so you're going to be the first people to kind of get the sneak peek of this. We're going to see if we can get everything working in cohesion here. But it's a really short video, but it's really incredible and something I think everyone is going to be able to use. I'm going to go ahead. Yes, I'm sorry.
And let me just interject that the video will be available on the BEST website, bestctr.org, and you can have this video customized for your own college. So we can put the title card with your college information at the end where it says if you want more information, contact your local technical or community college, and we'll have your college's information. So that's the beauty of it.
Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and get this playing real quick.
Making buildings more efficient will have a significant impact by reducing energy use while creating more jobs and boosting our economy. Buildings are evolving to be more energy efficient. They are now using sensors, computers, solar panels, and materials that make them high-performing and smarter. These new technologies include advanced electronics, mechanical, and building automation systems which control, monitor, troubleshoot, and collect data to improve a building's performance. The more sensors we have in a building to register the airflow and the temperatures, the more we can see how the building is performing. That all saves on resources, power, electricity, gas, and fuel. Building technicians help to ensure these technologies and systems work properly. Although automation might imply that technicians are needed less, this is hardly the case. With these changes come new, high-paying careers and plenty of jobs which can't be sent overseas. You might start making $40,000 to $50,000 a year, and with a few years of experience, you could easily earn over $100,000 per year. There's so much to learn in the field. You have to understand mechanical systems, electrical systems, computer programming, and control strategies to achieve energy efficiency, and just all of that stuff that I had to learn was just really interesting, and it was a challenge, and that's what really drew me, knowing that you really never get bored. Being a controls technician, I'm out in the field, I'm solving problems, I'm writing programs, I'm meeting a different customer every single day. One thing that I can never complain about in my job is monotony. Career options for building technicians include building automation systems, HVAC technology, building operations, energy management, building commissioning, renewable energy, energy auditing, and analysis. If you enjoy technology and want to make a good living while making a difference, then perhaps this is the path for you. Join this effort. Be the future. Be the best. For more information, visit bestctr.org or your local technical or community college.
Great. I think Renee was showing that through her, showing it, but I think you were hearing the audio through her cell phone. I think it was the only way we could get the audio connected. So when you hear the live version, you'll hear the music is really dynamic. It sounds really good, and the voice quality will be a little bit better because we wanted to do what we could to show this to you, and this was a last-minute effort, so that's why the audio is a little bit poor on what you just heard. But hopefully you like what you saw, and you'll have a chance to see the video again on our website, and you'll want to customize that to use with your initiatives that you may be doing if you have a live audience with students, or even if you have it on the website. And this is based on feedback that we received during our professional development workshops from folks around the country, that they wanted us to shorten the 7-minute video that we had, so that this would be very palatable for people clicking through a website, and that they'd really tune in for a 2-minute version. So I think we hit the hammer on the nail with this one. Would appreciate your feedback and any other questions that you may have in the last remaining minutes.
We do have a few questions here.
Okay.
I have a question. It looks like this is for Chris. What were the measurable outcomes of Chris's marketing efforts in growing enrollment, and what was the most effective ad buy?
So the most effective ad buy from an electronic standpoint was purchasing the embedded electronic package from the Pantograph, the local newspaper. They did all that external marketing. That one got me the absolute most return of talk. People, student-wise, age-wise, anecdotally came to me and said, I heard that you were on YouTube, you were in the online presence of the local newspaper, you were at this website. So from an electronic standpoint, that one got enough personal ad buy that people were talking about it, that actually said to me, we heard about it. From a purely analytical data standpoint, Pandora gave us the best pure analytics that indicated that 0.65% of click-through rate was the highest rate of return, meaning we knew that there was somewhere over 2,000 people that clicked on that banner ad embedded in Pandora's radio app that directly went back to the Heartland Community College. That one returned the most investment there. From the student investment, the absolute best return of investment there was busing the students in from the local high school to physically get them onto my campus to show them. That one I've now can say that when I ran that last year, I have 2 students that were directly high school graduates that heard, came out and saw, and now are here. So I think there are 3 different areas to hit, but that one was the best for getting the students out, was directly busing them in. So I didn't answer all of the question, but that was kind of that's a good enough answer, I guess, to help us out getting through the, understanding where we're at with this.
Chris, I have another one for you.
Okay.
What assistance did you get with student follow-up after deploying your marketing strategies?
Okay. And so that answer is, we did not get a lot of student follow-up. When it came to the problem that we faced was electronically, we had our website and all the ads linked to the Heartland's website. So any student that clicked on our ads and went to Heartland's website, we got no feedback. We do not know if they actually went to and viewed the data of our programs, whether they reached out and contacted student services. There was no internal mechanisms on the school to verify what happened to those 2,000 clicks. From a verification of student, the postcards that when we did our spring and fall information night, we had a sign-out sheet that the students and parents that came in, we asked them how did they hear about it, and we did get a high rate of acceptance saying that the postcard did attract them to that information night. The follow-up side, though, is we don't have any analytical data to prove that they actually followed up with us and actually enrolled based upon the marketing conditions that we presented.
Okay, we are just about out of time here, just a few seconds left. There is just so you know. There is a comment in there about great video, so I just wanted to share that with you. And there was one comment or question regarding the recruitment of women, and a statement or a question saying, can electronics or computers be a pathway into building technologies that might be more appealing to women? That's a great question, and probably not one that I can directly answer, but I'm sure that that would be a great pathway for appealing to a lot of students trying to focus on that electronic or computer age pathway, because that seems to be areas where we have a lot of students focusing and going nowadays. So.
Yes, and I'll just interject as well that is a good pathway, especially for the building automation controls technician. So when the girl in the video says, I'm programming, I'm writing, you're doing a lot with the building automation controls that are really working with the computers that are controlling all of the electrical and mechanical equipment. So computer and IT skills are wonderful to have as background in this field.
All right, we are now just a little bit over our hour, so we're going to go ahead and conclude our presentation. And there's one. We have recorded the webinar, and the recording for the webinar should be available on the BEST Center website, which is bestctr.org. We'd like to thank everyone for attending today, and once again, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out. If you contact me, Renee at escogroup.org, I can certainly put you in touch with anyone or get questions answered for any of the presenters that were on here today. Thank you once again for attending, and have a great rest of the day.